Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, the motion picture you're about to see contains scenes so terrifying, the public must be given grave warning.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I am your host, Sewer Dweller. And I know it's been a while since I've been here. I've been to talk around to talk to you guys. It's been about 2 weeks. We were supposed to do something really special last week for Friday the 13th. I had it all planned out. We were going to watch Never Hike Alone, a Friday the 13th fan film that was made about in 2019 and was actually very popular. I still plan to do that, but I believe we have another Friday the 13th coming up in December. So we might save that till then. I also was going to talk about the history and the lore behind Friday the 13th. But unfortunately, last week, we were supposed to do a midnight podcast just like this one. Um, but we got a call late, or we got an email late Thursday evening about 7 or 8 o'clock that one of our local news stations was coming to the haunt on Friday morning at 4:30 in the morning, because they were going to go live at 5 inside the haunt. So I had to get up. There was no way I was going to be able to do the podcast, get up, go do that, go do the haunt stuff. Um, and then after the haunt, after the news, we had to go out to a golf course. We were sponsoring a hole on a United Way golf tournament. So that would basically from 8 to 5 we were doing that. So basically from 4:30 in the morning until 5 about 4. I say it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock. I think we finally got done with the golf tournament. We were running around nonstop. There was no humanly possible way I was going to be able to do the podcast and then turn around and do all that in one day. So unfortunately, I was not able to do the podcast last week. I do apologize again profusely. I was really upset. I really wanted to do the podcast last week. I was excited to do the podcast last week. Um, Mainly because I haven't seen Never Hike Alone yet, and I was really excited to talk about the history and the lore behind Friday the 13th. Um, but I want to do that on a Friday the 13th, which again I believe we have one coming up in December. Not don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe we do have one coming up. So keep tuned in for that. We will do the history of Friday the 13th. If I have to do a special Shivers episode, we will do the history of Friday the 13th and the lore behind it because it is very interesting. Um, but I digress. This week, I chose a movie tonight, actually. I didn't choose it last week like I normally do. I usually choose my movies a week ahead of time. This week, I chose it literally about 6 hours ago. This week, we watched a movie I have never seen before. Um, and it comes from 1991. So you're right there on that cusp between 80s horror and 90s horror. And this is a very 80s style horror movie. Um, we watched Hauntedween. I had never even heard of this movie before, and we'll get into it. I'll give my review at the very end, but it is a very 80s centric horror movie set in 1991. Um, but of course, per the usual on the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast, we are going to talk about the weekly roundup of haunt news and horror movie news. More haunt news this week than horror movie news because there's just not a lot of stuff in the haunt or the horror movie world right now that's really interesting me. Um, when we get to the horror movies, I did go see Beetlejuice. I'll give a spoiler free review of Beetlejuice, what I thought of it. Um, we have already bought our tickets for Terrifier 3. So I am looking forward to that. I've already got my tickets for that. But guys, let's go ahead and jump into the haunt industry news for this week. We're going to start in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as Halloween Nights at Eastern State Penitentiary returns select nights from September 20th through November 9th with a new immersive experience, new local concessions, additional photo ops, and upgrades to attraction sets and visitor flow. Halloween Nights is a Halloween festival that occupies all 10 acres of Eastern State Penitentiary's abandoned cell blocks and yards with 5 haunted houses, historic tours, themed bars, live entertainment, and more. New for 2024 is Beyond the Veil, an immersive theater style experience that combines narrative and puzzle engaging visitors in a non linear quest that spans all 10 acres of the penitentiary complex. Key characters engage with guests, putting them on paths to make decisions and unravel additional storylines and challenges as they go. Uncover an overarching storyline that unites the attractions and delves into the backstories of a cast of all new signature characters. Beyond the Veil is included in Halloween night tickets. Halloween nights tickets. Tickets are on sale now starting at $39 to $70 for general admission, $59 to $89 for a VIP. Let's see. I know I got the what is it? Okay, so that is. I've got the web page right here. So you've got 5 haunted houses, historic tours, themed bars, lounges, live entertainment, and there's just if you could look at the website, which is easternstate.org/Halloween, um, there's a lot of stuff here. You've got Pumpkin Plaza, the Bloodline Lounge, S'mores and Lore, The Crypt, Kaleidoscope Hall, Speakeasy at Al Capone's Cell, Bazaar Bar, Nightmares, Fair Chance Beer Garden, Hospital Flashlight Tour. I believe that's the Machine Shop. I can't read this one because it's why is it like that? Here, view all attractions. Let's see what it brings up. There we go. That's better. Big Top Terror and Delirium. Delirium is a 3D haunted house. Machine Shop is a haunted house. Hidden away from the world is a long forgotten machine shop. Evil pervades this space, an evil with one mind. Let's see. No, don't. Sorry, I thought somebody was messaging me. Somebody was, but I thought it was somebody important. Let's see. Where did I was I right here? Nope, wrong one. There we go. Evil pervades the space, an evil with one mind, but with many bodies. Will you survive, or will you become just another cog in the machine? The Speakeasy at Al Capone's cell. For those who don't know, Eastern State Penitentiary became famous because Al Capone was kept there. Al Capone, of course, the world famous gangster, responsible for the St. Valentine's Massacre in Chicago, committed all kinds of murders, all kinds of brutal attacks. Um, one second, guys. Oh, sorry about that. All kind of attacks, all this stuff he did, and he was arrested, of course, for not paying his taxes. Um, but he was kept in Eastern State Penitentiary in a very posh like cell. We will do I'm going to do an episode of Shivers on Eastern State Penitentiary because it is very haunted. And the story behind the prison in general is very interesting. It comes from the Quakers and their Puritan beliefs of that a prison needs to be made to basically for the criminals and the people who are incarcerated in said prison to speak to God. It's them, and like every cell has a hole in the ceiling that so basically you can talk to God without the barrier, of course, of the cell or the roof. Um, it was not a pleasant place. I'll put it that way. But the Speakeasy at Al Capone's cell is a VIP admission only. Prohibition themed cocktail lounge. Unbundle your nerves at this cozy little hideaway. Grab a drink and get serenaded by our undead lounge singers. One complimentary drink included. I'm sold. Give me a free drink. I'm good. The Bloodline Lounge. Needless to say, it's a vampire themed cocktail lounge. The Crypt is a haunted house. Wade through the mist and into the lair of an ancient vampire clan. The creatures that live within require a sacrifice. Watch your step, or the Countess and her bloodthirsty minions might mark you as their next offering. Pumpkin Plaza, featuring the Boogie Monsters, is a Halloween themed bar and dance performance. That just sounds awesome, though. The party starts here. Enjoy electric live dance performances by the Boogie Monsters and show off some moves of your own. Pumpkin Plaza is also the perfect selfie spot featuring hay bales, skeletons, and pumpkins. The Hospital Flashlight Tour. This is a 20-minute guide-led flashlight tour, walking tour. It is an extra $12 if you wish to go on it. At the door only. Includes souvenir flashlight. Learn more about Eastern State's medical history. Visit the operating room and other fascinating spaces. One of the interesting things about that is you get to visit it at night, in the dark, and scare the shit out of yourself. Um, the Fair Chance Bar Beer Garden. Beer garden and museum programming, soak in the night air, enjoy a triple bottom beer, and down north pizza. So yeah, you have Big Graph and prisons today. It's museum exhibits. You learn about criminal justice today with the award-winning exhibits on mass incarceration. The Big Graph and prisons today. The Voices of Eastern State highlights audio tours, a self-guided audio tour, 20-minute version of our audio tour recorded especially for Halloween nights with narration from actor Steve Buscemi, featuring the voices of people who were incarcerated or worked at Eastern State. You have the Kaleidoscope Hall, which is a projection light show, s'mores and lore, campfire ghost stories. Bizarre Bar, which is a carnival themed bar. That's probably where I would spend a lot of my time because I do like carnival themed stuff. Big Top Terror, Haunted House, of course. Needless to say, it's a circus themed haunted house, and Nightmares. Uh, Haunted House. As sleep paralysis sets in, there's no escaping the terrors that lurk in the shadows. Mr. Sandman conjures up a menagerie of frightening personalities, all dead set on trapping you in your worst nightmares forever. I've had sleep paralysis growing up, and it's fucking terrifying. But yeah, Eastern State. It's if you're in Pennsylvania, go check them out. It's promises to be a very good time. In all honesty, moving a little further north to New York City. New York City's iconic Village Halloween parade returns on August 31st with a feline twist. The 51st annual event will embrace the theme Meow and all things cat-like. This year's Grand Marshal is Tony Award winner Andre DeShields, best known for his roles in Hadestown and Cats. Parade director Jean, I think it's Jean Fleming, invited everyone to channel their inner cat lady with whiskers and to join the festivities. This Halloween, we step out of the shadows and onto the streets to celebrate our inner cat ladies. Whether you're a solitary soul or a playful spirit, tonight we come together, quirks, claws, and all. So put on your whiskers and tails and join us as we dance in the moonlight, Fleming said. Parade start time and route. The parade begins at 7 p.m. and will start at 6th Avenue from Canal Street to 15th Street. The parade is free for everyone, whether watching from the sidelines or walking in it. No ticket is required. However, ticket holders can enjoy VIP access, with options ranging from viewing the parade to walking in it and or supporting it through donations. Tickets are available on the website at various levels, including skip the line entry, early access to the parade, VIP level 1 standing admission, VIP level 2 a director's chair seating section, Cat Ladies Unite, special theme section of the parade. Costumes are required. Can you join the parade? Skeleton puppets in the village Halloween parade. Skeleton puppets in the village Halloween. What the hell? Yes, all those in costume are welcome to join the parade. The lineup begins at 6:30 p.m. on 6th Avenue, south of Spring Street. Participants are instructed to approach the start only from the south at Canal Street and 6th Avenue. So if you're in New York City and you want to go to the Village Parade, I mean, go ahead. Cats aren't my thing. I like cats, the animal, but cats is a theme for a Halloween parade. I don't know about that one. Um, so yeah, we're gonna move a little back down to Pennsylvania as another more sad news comes out. Portals of Fear haunted attraction in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, will not operate during the 2024 season due to an unforeseen real estate logistical issue. And this is the release from their website. Portals of Fear haunted attraction announces a hiatus for the 2024 season. Portals of Fear haunted attraction, a beloved staple of Halloween festivities, announces with regret that it will not be operating for the 2024 season due to an unforeseen real estate logistical issue. While we understand this news may come as a disappointment to our loyal fans and community, this pause presents an exciting opportunity for us to evolve and enhance our attraction. We are committed to providing a thrilling and unforgettable experience for our visitors, and during this hiatus, we will be focusing our efforts on rebuilding and retooling Portals of Fear into a more developed and professional interactive experience. We have always been dedicated to delivering top tier scares and entertainment, and this year will allow us to take our haunted attraction to the next level, said Charles Morrison, owner and creative director of Portals of Fear. Our team is hard at work planning new ways to surprise, excite, and terrify our guests. We are looking forward to unveiling a bigger and better attraction experience in 2023. I'm sorry, 2025. With more excitement, more scares, and an expanded schedule that will truly set us apart. Fans of Portals of Fear can expect a completely revamped experience when we reopen in 2025, featuring a state of the art attractions, innovative, interactive elements, and spine tickling scares that will redefine all that was done in the past. We are eager to introduce our region to this new and improved Portals of Fear and appreciate the community's patience and understanding as we work diligently to create something spectacular. We will continue to provide updates on our progress and sneak peeks of what's to come via our website and social media channels. We thank you for your continued support and look forward to welcoming you back in 2025 for an experience like no other. Um, it sucks. I hate hearing haunts not being able to open. Um, it just sucks, you know. It's you don't want to hear about that. And there's been too many haunts this year. This is like the fourth or fifth one that I've read about. Um, that has had to close their doors. this season for one reason or another. One of our local ones in Columbus, Carnage, had to close their doors earlier this year, but thankfully they found a way to open them. They will return. I believe they're opening next weekend, the 27th. Is I believe their opening night. I do hope we get to go through an industry night with them because I do love Carnage. I think it's one of the better haunted houses in the state. What do we have? Hello, Stefan. Hello, hello, and welcome to the show. I'm really bad about reading the comments, guys. So if I miss it, I do apologize. Um, I'm really bad about seeing them. Uh, But moving on, we have mark your calendars for the 85th Tom's River Halloween Parade on October 21st, or October 21st, October 31st, 2024. Join the festive atmospheres as floats, bands, and costumes parade through Main Street. Arrive early to catch all the excitement on Washington Street and Hooper Avenue. The Tom's River Halloween Parade is over a month away, but we're all getting ready for the big night. Mark your calendars for the 85th Tom's River Halloween Parade on October 31st, 2024. Join the festive atmosphere as floats, bands, and costume parades through Main Street. Arrive early to catch all the excitement on Washington Street and Hooper Avenue. You know, this article is not telling me where it is. The Tom's River Halloween Parade is over a month. Yeah, we've already read all that. 8 things you need to know about the Tom's River Parade. The Tom's River Halloween Parade will be on Halloween this year, Thursday, October 31st, 2024, and usually starts around 7 p.m. People will be lining the streets of downtown Tom's River a couple of days before the parade with their lawn chairs for their front row spot. The parade route begins at the Tom's River Shopping Center on the corner of Highland Parkway and Route 166. The parade travels down Main Street, turning left onto Washington Street and ending at the corner of Washington Street and Hooper Avenue. Registration for the parade is the day of the parade. Halloween, Thursday, October 31st. They make sure that you know Halloween is only Thursday this year. Starting early in the morning at the Tom's River Fire Company, one firehouse at 26 Robbins Avenue. Tom's River Halloween Parade is a lot of fun. It is the second largest Halloween parade in the world. Get there early, grab something to eat at one of the delicious Tom River eateries, sit down and enjoy over 100,000 spectators. I'm sorry, sit down and enjoy. Over 100,000 spectators come to the Tom's River Halloween Parade. Uh, yeah, it's not, it's a parade. I mean, that's really the best I can I can give you. It's a parade. I don't know where Tom's River is. I when I found the article, I guess I probably should have looked up that because it doesn't really tell you in the article. I thought it did. But we're gonna move on because the haunt. What is it? Where is it? The Haunted Attraction Association of America has put out their top 50 haunted houses for the year. Um, I'm gonna go through a few of these. I'm not gonna go through all of them because 50 is just way too much. Here's the thing about the Haunted Attractions Association of America. They're a pay-to-play group. Um, to get on their list, you have to pay. You have to join. You have to pay your dues, and you got to join the association. They're almost like a union, kind of, sort of, but um, so let's go ahead and go because you have to click to apply on the website. If you are a haunted attraction and you want to apply, go to hauntedattractionassociation.com and you can apply to get on the list. But there's really no order to this. There's no numbers. But some of the ones on here we have Akron Haunted Schoolhouse in Akron, Ohio. I've heard really good things about that one. I haven't gotten to go up there, of course, but I have heard good things about it. Black Orchard in Shelbyville, Kentucky. I really want to go to Black Orchard. I've seen videos, I've seen their TikToks and everything, and I want to go to Black Orchard really badly. But it's like almost 5 hours away from us. It's like in southern Kentucky. So it might happen eventually. I don't really know. Um, Boone Hall Fright Nights, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Haven't heard of that one. Um, Creepy Hollow Haunted House in Sharon, Texas. Dark Hour Haunted House in Plano, Texas. I've heard of Dark Hour. Factory of Terror in Canton, Ohio. I've heard of them. The largest, one of the largest indoor haunted houses in the world. Fear Factory in Salt Lake City. I have heard of Fear Factory. They're supposed to be really good. I've seen some videos. They look pretty fun. Fear Farm in Glendale, Arizona. Of course, one of the most well-known haunts out there for people in the industry, at least. Field of Screams in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They go all out every year. They really, really do. Field of Screams, Montana, Victor, Montana. Fright Haven in Stratford, Connecticut. Fright Nights in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've got Fright Nights West in Daniels, West Virginia. Frightland, Middletown, Delaware. Frightmare Farms in Palermo, New York. Ghostly Manor in Sandusky. I've not really heard of Ghostly Manor, surprisingly. Halloween Nights at Eastern State Penitentiary. We just talked about that in Philadelphia. Haunted Hollow, Rockwood, Pennsylvania. My original haunt, the, I'm sorry, go back. Haunted Hunt Club Farm. It was not called the Haunted Hunt Club Farm when I was there. It was the Hunt Club Halloween Festival. They changed it after I moved away, but now they are the Haunted Hunt Club Farm because there's 3 attractions, maybe 4 now. Think I read somewhere that they're 4. I know they open next week. They're not even open yet. Another one I've heard of and I really want to check out: Headless Horseman Hayride and Haunted House in Ulster Park, New York. Hobbs Grove in Sanger, California. The House of Torment, Austin, Texas. 100 Acres Manor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hysterium Haunted Asylum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I have heard of them. Legends of Fear, Shelton, Connecticut. Los Angeles Haunted Hayride, of course, in Los Angeles, California. Malice Manor, another one I've heard of, in Clarksville, Indiana. Nashville Nightmare in Nashville, Tennessee. New Orleans Nightmare in New Orleans, Louisiana. Necropolis, an underground haunted house. I I had a chance to go there. Unfortunately, it was at a convention. We decided to stay and watch the Metallica cover band, and I don't regret it because it was an awesome time. It was an awesome show, and it was awesome people around. Um, Niles Screen Park in Niles, Michigan. Oklahoma Asylum in Nowata, Oklahoma. Penhurst Haunted Penhurst Haunted Asylum in Spring City, Pennsylvania. I've heard of Penhurst. I did not know they did a haunted house at Penhurst. Piney Acres Scream Farm in Greenfield, Indiana. Reaper's Revenge, another one I've heard of, in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Scaregrounds PDX in Portland, Oregon. Scarehouse in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Shocktoberfest in Sinking Spring, Pennsylvania. Sinister Tombs Haunted House, Eastview, Kentucky. Spook Hollow in Marquette Heights, Illinois. Spooky Ranch in Columbia Station, Ohio. I have not heard of them. I have not heard of them. Stillwell Manor Haunted House, Anderson, Indiana. Terror in the Corn in Erie, Colorado. Terror on the Fox in Green Bay, Wisconsin. One of the greatest haunted houses I've ever been to. Dent Schoolhouse in Cincinnati. They are amazing. It is in a legitimate haunted schoolhouse. I know they had their issues on opening night with some kids. And I think at one point there was gunshots in the area, not not at the haunt, not revolving in the haunt. It's just a couple of idiots nearby, basically. And Dent did. We'll talk about this in a second, because there's a lot of people doing this. Devil's Attic in Louisville, Kentucky. I've heard of them. I gotta watch some videos. I've not watched any of their videos or anything. The Haunted Farm in Hendersonville, North Carolina. The Haunted Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky. I've heard of them. Uh, Haunted Hydro Experience in Fremont, Ohio. The Haunted Hydro Experience is at a legitimate. It's a haunted dam, or it's a haunted hydro plant. Um, like it's supposed to be legitimately haunted. So I've heard really good things about them. I again have to watch some stuff. 13th Floor Haunted House in Chicago, Illinois, Denver, Colorado, and Phoenix, Arizona, as well as San Antonio, Texas. Another local one is down near Cincinnati. It's actually in Newport, Kentucky, which is right over the river. The USS Nightmare. You get to actually go through a haunted house on an old riverboat, um, which is probably really cool. Haven't got to see it yet. Weirds Orchards Night Terrors in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Uh, Woods of Terror in Greensboro, North Carolina. That's just some of the ones they've got listed on here. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more. Um, and of course, Hell's Dungeon in Dayton, Ohio. We are not on the list because we did not pay to be on the list. We have not joined. I don't believe we've joined Haunted Attractions Association. But I think we're still one of the best ones out there. Uh, so yeah, the list is up on hauntedattractionsassociation.com. So go check that out when you get a chance. But moving on, we're going back to my hometown, my home area, Williamsburg, Virginia. Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Didn't have a really good opening weekend for Hallow Scream at Busch Gardens. Um, in case you've been living under a rock and you haven't really been paying attention to social media lately, almost every single theme park in America that has a Halloween event or is going to be open later at night for the fall, um, has now put a curfew. Not really a curfew, but a chaperone policy in place. Um, Busch Gardens is one of the latest ones to do it. I believe that's what we're going to talk about with Dent. Dent Schoolhouse in Cincinnati has put one in place. Do basically where kids under the age of 16, so if you're 15 and below, you're not going to be allowed to be at any of these places without a chaperone. The chaperone does have to be 21 or older. Um, and I'll tell you right now, I literally watched this happen in malls. They will kick you out. They will 100% kick you out if you cannot show them an ID that shows you're 15 years, you're over the age of 15, that you are 16 and above. So if you are 16 years old and you decide that you're going to one of these theme parks or anything, bring your ID because they will not take your word for it. Um, and it's something I agree with. We had an incident. What we opened our Hell's Dungeon opened last week. We had a couple of incidents where because people were just stupid. One of the incidents I was involved in because we had this group of young kids come in. They're probably preteens, early teens at the most. And one of these kids just had an attitude from hell the second they walk in. I'm the first scene. Just I'm not to blow anything up or anything. I'm the first scene this year at Hell's Dungeon. And right away this kid just had a straight up fucking attitude. And didn't want to do what he was told. To the point where I actually had to stop him from going backstage in one of our areas. So I started doing my thing, and one of his female friends, goes to pull him closer. He pushes her away and takes a swing at her, like swing, literally takes a swing at his friends. So I grabbed him and I pushed him out of the out of the front door and told security, "Hey, this kid's taking swings at his friends. I don't think he needs to go through because if he's swinging on his friends, what's to stop him from swinging on one of the actors?" Um, Unfortunately, they let him go through, and he didn't make it two more scenes before he tried to touch an actor, and they finally got him, and they pulled him out. Young or old, don't touch the actors. Don't be an asshole. You know, enjoy the show. Come through, enjoy the show. Don't be an asshole. It's not that hard not to be an asshole. But that's the incident I had this weekend for opening. Other than that, opening night went really well. I believe we had one of the biggest opening nights we've ever had in the history of Hell's Dungeon. So bravo for that. Scare Factor came through. Don't necessarily agree with their rating, but um, it is what it is. I mean, everybody's got an asshole. Everybody's got an opinion. So take it for what you will. But going to Busch Gardens, basically there was an altercation involving several hundred people at Busch Gardens during Hollow Scream opening weekend. The disturbance began around 10 p.m. as the park was closing, and large crowds of people were making their way to the park's entrance at the France turnaround area. I'm trying to think where they would be. France isn't necessarily near the front of the park, so I don't know like where unless they're the only thing I can think of is they're going towards Germany and then they're going to go down the stairs across the river and then back up the stairs in Scotland. Um, no, or they're over like France is like the middle of the friggin' park. I don't know why they say people are leaving. Like France is the middle of the damn park. Um, but let's see. Police said there was no weapons, injuries, or arrests involved in a public disturbance at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Saturday night, as hundreds of visitors exited the park during Halloween weekend. Opening weekend. The disturbance began around 10 p.m. as the park was closing and large crowds of people were making their way to the park's entrance at the France turnaround area. According to Taylor Brooks with the James City County Police Department, a verbal argument broke out between two large groups, mostly young adults or people under the age of 18, who were waiting to be picked up, Brooks said. Uh, JCCPD and other local law enforcement were already there as planned extra security for Hollow Scream immediately began dispersing the crowd, and additional local law enforcement were called in to help as the situation escalated. Brooks said some park guests indicated someone in the crowd may have had a gun, which led to the crowd dispersing further. A second brief dispute happened in the France parking lot, but quickly subsided with the arrival of more law enforcement. Um, Shortly after that, Brooks said a group of young people believed to have been part of the initial fight began walking back toward the remaining crowd at the entrance. Oh, sorry about that. Had to sneeze. Um, let's see. Began walking back toward the remaining crowd at the park entrance. In that group, police noticed a juvenile grabbing at his waistband in a way that suggested he might be armed. Officers intervened, and after briefly complying with police commands to show his hands, the juvenile again made a motion toward his waistband, at which point the officers detained him. No weapon was found, and the boy was released to his parents, Brooks said. JCCPD said the crowd was fully dispersed by midnight, thanks to the significant multi jurisdictional response from local law enforcement. So, yeah. So, yeah. They're used to that. It's you have that many people. You're talking thousands of people, especially for Howl Scream. Howl Scream is very popular at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, because you don't have to buy an extra ticket. So you have all the locals there. You got all the people from Richmond, everybody from Hampton Roads. Which if you're from Virginia, you know Hampton Roads is the Seven Cities. You got everybody basically within an hour of Williamsburg. There's thousands of people. Um, to the point where I used to go, and if it was if it was already if the parking lot when I would go to Busch Gardens and the parking lot was an overflow, I would turn my ass around and drive all the way back to Virginia Beach because I you ain't getting on anything. Um, and the police did it from the sound of it. The police did an amazing job keeping everybody together, keeping everybody under wraps and everything. So bravo to them. Um, Also, I think there was a second incident. Let Yeah, firstly, during Halloween Screams open weekend, altercation began around 10 p.m. Blah, 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 blah. I have another story. I have another story here that um. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Exactly what I read already. Um, the second altercation occurred this past Saturday, September 14th, at approximately the same time as the previous week's incident. By the time law enforcement arrived, the individuals involved with the fight had departed. However, an 18-year-old guest approached police to say he had been stabbed. The individual was transported to Riverside Doctors Hospital, Williamsburg, with non life threatening injuries. Um, Incidents like these in the past few years have prompted many theme parks to adopt chaperone policies for their Halloween events. As of last weekend, Halloween Scream at Busch Gardens Williamsburg had not implemented any chaperone policy for their guests. Well, that changed today. Um, they 100% have a dropped a chaperone policy, at least as of today that I've seen. As they should. You're not supposed to drop your kid off and have everybody else babysit him at the theme park. That is not what haunt actors are supposed to do. We're there to entertain. It's as much as I love haunt acting, I gotta say it's not necessarily a very safe job. Um, I tell people when I'm training them or anything like that, I tell people flat out, it's not if you get hit, it's when. Whether it be somebody just being scared and swinging or putting their balling up their fists ready to fight, because some people that's their coping mechanism is ready to fight. um and then they calm down after a couple of seconds, as long as you don't escalate it. um but then there's people out there who just want to be assholes. I've only had ever had to get one person kicked out in my 30 years of haunting. This will be my 30th year haunting. I've only ever had to get one person kicked out of an event for hitting me, and that was because this girl, when I popped up, I didn't even get a chance to scream or anything, and she just when I was at the haunted hayride in Virginia Beach, I pulled myself up, and she just flat out punched me square in the eye. Um, I lost my cool and I started yelling at her. I didn't get physical or anything, but I got pissed off and yelling at her. Um, They took her up front, they pulled her off, they put her in handcuffs because at the haunted hayride, we had police. Like, we didn't have security. We had sheriff's deputies and off-duty police officers, as our security. So she was arrested. Um, and then when they came back to press charges, basically, I just asked if she was crying, and they said she was bawling up there. And I was like, all right, now I'm good then. She learned her lesson. Um, Because in all honesty, at the end of the day, guys, it's really not that hard to keep our hands to ourselves. It really isn't. But yeah, we had a really good opening weekend. Opening night at Hell's Dungeon. We open back up tomorrow night, 8 p.m. till midnight. Tomorrow night and Saturday night, we have a lot going on. Yesterday we filmed a commercial for Harley Davidson of Xenia. That's supposed to drop tomorrow, I believe. Um, Next weekend, we're gonna be busy as hell. Or the weekend after, I'm sorry, the weekend after that, the first weekend of October, we're gonna be busy as hell. As October 4th, they want us to come to there's a restaurant that they want us to come to in Wilmington, from 4 to 10, but we've already explained to them that's not humanly possible because we open that night and we can't afford to just leave actors at a restaurant. So we're gonna go down there and hang out from 4 till 7. The next day, we're going to Harley Davidson Xenia for their trunk or treat and for their Freak Fest. Um, they're coming out. They're hosting a Harley ride all the way from Harley Davidson Xenia all the way out to Hell's Dungeon. Um, and they're all going to come through. They're all going to come through Hell's Dungeon. And then the very next day, we're not going to get any sleep this weekend because the very next day we are hosting, we are going to Huber Heights, Ohio for the Huber Haunts Zombie Walk. We are going to lead the Zombie Walk. It is a huge trunk or treat style event for kids, and it's a festival and everything like that. So we'll have we had a large presence out there last year. We'll probably have a large presence again this year. Um, One of our very own, Mambo Marie, won the best costume last year. So let's see if we can do that again with Hell's Dungeon. Um, so that's going to be a busy week, and we got a bunch of special event nights coming up. We got Toker's Night, where anybody works at a local dispensary will get it good to come in. We'll get a pretty good discount. Um, Pride Night's coming up at some point. I think we're doing Cinema Night in December this year, and we just have a bunch of stuff coming up. A lot of big things are happening with Hell's Dungeon. We were just on the news this past week. We got like I said, we got the Harley Davidson commercial dropping tomorrow. We got we got all kinds of scares for you. So if you are in the Dayton, Ohio area, come check us out. But let's go ahead and move on. There's a couple of I think there's a couple of news stories um that we can talk about for horror movies. Like I said, this is a lot of stuff. It's just not interesting me. Um a lot of mainstream horror movie doesn't really interest me anymore anyways, in all honesty. I like the independent stuff. But here we go. Here's what we can talk about. Beetlejuice. This is going to be, I'm going to give you my review of it. It's going to be spoiler free. So don't worry about me ruining it for you or anything like that. I don't do that kind of stuff. That's why one of my rules for the podcast is any movie we do has to be at least 2 years old. Um, this way people have had a chance to watch it, and then I can talk about it. But Beetlejuice I know it's getting mixed reactions. But here's the thing: if you go to see it, go in with an open mind. Don't go in thinking you're going to get nostalgia. You're not going to get nostalgia. Um, it is a much different movie. Um, there's a lot of Easter eggs to the first one. Um, they do explain a lot of stuff in it. So if you notice certain missing characters, they will be explained. Um, you just like I said, go and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to watch. It made me laugh a few times. Again, I didn't get Beetlejuice. I didn't get Beetlejuice. The vibe from the first one. It has its own vibe. I enjoyed it though. That's the thing. I'll watch it again. It ain't like the Rob Zombie's Monsters movie. I can't watch that again. I just can't. I tried the first time and I barely got through it the first time. Um, so yeah, I'll give it probably give it 3 and 3/4 stars. Honestly, I give it 3 and 3/4 stars. It was good. It was fun to watch. But like I said, hold on. Sorry, my sinuses are acting up for some reason. Um, don't go into it for nostalgia. Don't go into it for anything else but to watch a fun movie. But let's get into some horror movie news. Silver Screen Con 3 event report. I guess it's an event. I guess this already took place. Yep, last weekend in Worcester, Massachusetts. Was a full circle moment for Silver Screen mastermind and Ice Nine Kills frontman Spencer Charnas, whose experiences attending Rock and Shock inspired him to start his own convention. So this is okay. This is Ice Nine Kills convention. Um, they're a very good band. I like them. Uh, The guest list. This is what I'm interested in. The guest list itself included Scream's David Arquette and Jamie Kennedy and Lee Waddell, Cabin Fever's Eli Roth, Serena Vincent, Jordan Ladd, Terrifiers Damian Leone, David Howard Thornton, Lauren Lavera, Elliot Fullman, and Emily McLean, Halloween's Nick Castle, PJ Souls, John Michael Graham, Danielle Harris, Scout Taylor Compton, James Jude Courtney, Friday the 13th, Sean S. Cunningham, Ari Lehman, Warrington Gillette, and Derek Mears, Idle Hands' Devin Sawa and Eldon Henson, Saw's Shawnee Smith, Devil Rejects, Bill Mosley. That's good to see him out and about again. The Nuns, Bonnie Aarons, Super Troopers, Paul Soder and Eric Stolhansky, and Freddy's Dead's Ricky Dean Logan. This explains a lot because they had last week. We also had Horror Hound here in Ohio, in Cincinnati, and they didn't have a lot of people. I see now where the rest of the Scream people went. All the Scream people went over to Massachusetts. We had Robert Englund. We also had a lot of people complaining about how they handled Robert Englund's lines and stuff like that. So, yep, that's a thing. I'm trying to see if there's any stories popping up over here that. Because see, the stories that are going to interest me on here, they want just it's basically your trailers and things like that and videos that accompany it, and I just no, I can't justify putting them on here. So I'll tell you what, I've already been going for about 50 minutes now. Let's go ahead and take our break real quick, and then when we come back, we will dive into Hauntedween. Stick around, guys. We'll see you in a minute.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite seems trying to say is that on Retro Reductibus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Reductibus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
we're back. Welcome once again to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I am Sewer Dweller, your host. And tonight we are continuing our deep dive into kind of I want to call it a Halloween style, the Halloween season, the spooky movie season, of course. I'm trying to theme my the next couple of months, at least this month and October, towards Halloween style movies, Halloween movies, and that, or at least Halloween themed movies. Um, so far this month, we've watched the Funhouse Massacre, and of course, we just today we watched Hauntedween. Again, I just chose this about 6 o'clock this evening. I chose this movie to watch, and I'm kind of glad I did because it was. We'll get to the reviews here in a little bit, but Hauntedween came out in 1991. Um, it was written and directed by Doug Robertson. Um, this is his one and only direct. This is his one and only credit. He has not done anything else other than Hauntedween. Um, this is it for him. The movie stars Brian Blakely as Kurt. Let's see. Got a little more things. He's got nine. He's got nine credits to his name. Nothing too big. X Files. He played a reporter. Roswell. He played a reporter. He plays a reporter a lot from the looks of it. 6 episodes of The Practice as a reporter. Head Cases as a reporter. Looks like he got typecast. Blake Pickett as Mel. She is the um love interest in the movie. Wow, she was. These are college because she would have been 32 when this movie came out, or 28. Mm, let me do my math. Yeah, 28. She'd have been 28 when this movie came out. So yeah, um, a lot of stunts, surprisingly. Um, oh yeah, and looking at her credits, it's a lot of softcore porn. Um, Haunted Ween would have been her second movie. Her first one was she was in a TV show, Super Force as girl number one. She went on to make Vampire Trailer Park, They Bite, Can It Be Love, the Swamp Thing TV series, on an episode of that. Hourglass as a model, Passion and Romance Scandal. Apparently, I guess she changed her name to Kyle Hunter. Um, yeah, Passion and Romance, The Exotic House of Wax, Confessions of a Lap Dancer as Josie Hunter. Now all of a sudden she goes from Kyle Hunter to Josie Hunter. Passion and Romance, Strange Desires, uh, Lust the movie, Butterscotch, I Am Not a Ghost, Hot Lust, Lola's Games, Sex Files, Alien Erotica, Sex Files, Digital Sex, and Sex Files, Sexecutioner. So she went on to do some things. Um, Brad Hanks as Hanks. He became one of my favorite one of favorite characters in the movie. This is his only credit, the only credit he has. We got Leslie Stacy as Sally. Um, again, only even Angels Fall, and she was in a couple of episodes of Superboy back in 1990. So nothing major with her. Um, Ethan Adler, who plays Big Eddie Berber, the killer. This is his only credit. Um, Bentley Tittle as Bentley. Um, yeah, he's in a few things. Producer of the all new Mickey Mouse Club from 1989 with Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera. Art department, a few things. Acting though, well, let's see, get rid of that. As an actor, he was in six things. The Swamp Thing TV series, Vampire Trailer Park, and just nothing major. Um, I'm trying. There's really nobody that stands out of this cast. So this is basically a low budget movie from 1991 where nobody really went on to do anything. Um, we'll talk about the trivia and stuff like that later, but let's go ahead and jump into Haunted Ween. The movie opens on a haunted house facade. It is called the House of Horror. We pan over a little bit to the right, and there's a kid sitting by the basically it's by the entryway to the driveway to the haunt, and he's just sitting uh, by the archway reading a famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. Which, if you were born in the 80s or 90s, you read these magazines a lot. If you were a horror movie fan, um, he puts on a green mask and it's got red hair. It's the mask you see in the picture in the center. Um, as a car full of teenagers pull up, they kind of greet him. They kind of give him shit. One of the guys shakes his hand. The driver hands him some money uh, and tells him to go ahead and keep the change and buy himself a new mask. They laugh at him. And they drive away. He's only really wearing the mask with like a gray sweatshirt and some jeans, so he's not really in a full on costume, but it still doesn't look too bad, especially from the 90s. Or I guess this is supposed to be the 70s because the actual movie takes place 20 years later in the 90s. But they drive on in, and you can see the price. It's only $1 to go in. That's how long ago it was. It was $1 to go in the haunted house. Another car pulls up, and this young girl is inside, and she hands Eddie the money, and they drive in. Um, and like we're getting credits in between each scene, and that police car pulls up and asks Eddie how he's doing. Eddie doesn't answer, but Eddie doesn't really talk for the first 5 minutes of this movie. He just acts creepy. The police car drives away as Eddie basically looks incredibly bored, just taking the money. Um, He turns the sign to close and just goes off, basically walks up to the haunt. The guy letting the groups in, he turns and he's basically Eddie startles him a little bit. We find out this is his dad. He tells Eddie he's still too young to work in the haunt, even though he looks like he's about 16, 17 years old, in all honesty. But maybe he could work there next year, you know? Then he tells Eddie that he needs to go home and rest up because Eddie's mom says they have a lot of work to do in the morning. Then he as he has already he just let the last group go through. He decides it's time for him to go home as well. And who the fuck is gonna lock up the haunt? Who the fuck is gonna make sure that every group is out of there? Maybe it's just me working in a haunted house, but this asshole can't go home yet. Um, And that's what I put as like I put he decides to go home as people are still going through the haunt. That's just bonkers to me. Eddie turns and he looks at his father. Again, like I said, Eddie hasn't said a word for the first 5 minutes of the movie. And then, of course, as I write that, Eddie takes off the mask and says, "Welcome to the House of Horror." And he walks off camera as more credits play. He's walking around the building and he just keeps repeating to himself, "Welcome to the House of Horror. Welcome to the House of Horror." And he then sneaks inside the ventilator. There's like there's some sheet metal on the like blocking the entry to the basement or the ventilation system. He moves it out and he climbs into the ventilator. He's crawling through the ventilation system, Die Hard style. And the entire time he's just repeating to himself, "Welcome to the horror house. Welcome to the horror house." Um, we cut and then the last group of kids going through, and it's a very well done scene, done up scene. There's the actors saying his lines, and then a teen in a black T-shirt with face paint stands up and screams "boo" at them. Now, again, this may be me as a haunt actor. I will fire you on the spot if you're working for me at a haunt and you say boo. You no. Uh-uh. Now again, this was the 70s, so but I love the little girl because this little girl bitches him out so much and just looks him dead in the face and goes, "You're not very scary." Bravo, little girl. Bravo. Little girl starts calling for her mother now because one of the rules you go to a haunted house, you stay together at all times. She's been separated from her group. She's by herself in the haunt. She bumps into Eddie and asks if he knows the way out. Eddie grabs a candle and gestures for her to follow him. Um, and for some reason, I don't think he's taking her outside. We walk with the little girl and Eddie for a moment, and he moves a board. He basically just moves a board in the wall, and has her go inside, and he closes it behind him. P- Whew, sorry about that. Um, he pulls the panel shut as we cut outside to the final group leaving. Uh, this is where Mother of the fucking Year finally notices that her child, Katie, is missing. She's been gone for about 10 minutes at this point. Eddie growls and starts chasing Katie around the room like he's trying to scare her. They run in circles and she jukes the shit at him, like jukes him right out of his shoes. Um, he corners her and he starts approaching. She jumps back because she's scared. Eddie slowly takes the mask off, and we now see that little Katie has impaled herself on a very pointy piece of wood that probably should have been taken care of before the haunt opened. Um, Katie starts spitting up blood, and Eddie holds up a machete and just whacks her with it, basically, apparently killing her. It's safe to assume that he's killed her. Eddie crawls out of the vents and runs off into the fields because there's blood everywhere. We see the facade of of the House of Horror, and we hear the mom of the little girl scream. We cut to Eddie. He's sitting up in the field as if he just woke up, and Eddie's mom. We have Eddie's mom telling him that they have to go away for a little while. Uh, that's the whole opening of this movie, and that was almost like 10 minutes long. And I was really impressed. It was actually very interesting. They didn't show the kill, but it's a little girl, so it's a child. So I kind of know why they didn't. Plus, it's a low budget movie. So you're not. That kill, I was fine with not being able to see. But very good opening to the movie. I enjoyed it. Hopefully, if you guys watch it, you'll enjoy it too. You can watch this on Tubi for free, by the way. 20, we get the 20 years later image, and we are at a cabin in the woods with an older woman. She's washing dishes, and then it cuts outside, and there's a man cutting wood with an axe. Um, the older woman comes out asking where Eddie is with that wood. So basically, this is Eddie and his mama. Eddie's mama grabs her chest and she falls over. Eddie comes walking over with a stack of wood, and we see the old. She's laying. Eddie's mama is laying on the deck. He grabs the back of her head in distress. Mama, mama, no, doing that. And there's blood. He screams no, and it echoes. We then cut to a van with its side doors open, and Eddie places his mother's dead body in the van and tells her it's time to go home. Again, well done scene. Kind of explains his insanity and things like that. So I'm still okay. I'm okay with this movie so far. We now cut to Top Hill State College in Reguals, Kentucky. We are outside a dorm as a party is going. It is a wild party, guys. Trust me. We cut inside, and it's the cheesiest collegiate college party you know, man. It is basically every college movie stereotype you can think of. First, we get a guy. This is Bo. First, we get a guy in matching hat and a shirt, chugging beer from one of the funnels, and of course, his buddies are cheering him on. He burps, and they all laugh. We cut over, and then there's this guy, just random dude, just dumps beer down his girl's shirt. The girl laughs and giggles about it and says it's cold, and the guy's like, "What? It's cold? We never get cold beer." And this causes his buddy to pour beer down his girl's shirt as well. We cut over to another guy who I when I first saw this, I'm not gonna lie, and even near the end of the movie, I thought 100% that this was Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman. It's not. Let me say that now. It's not. But I swore to God that was Paul Rubens. He talks just like him, looks just like him, but it apparently is not Paul Rubens. Um, he's talking about lying about being a food inspector, and they gave him all of this free food. We cut across more to a guy in an RC Cola work shirt making out with a girl. Uh, she wants to go find somewhere else to hang out. He basically just spins her around and goes, "Hey, look, I found the perfect spot." And she's like, "Oh, okay." Then they just start making out again. Um, I did write down. Let me say that everyone at this party looks way too old to be frat bros, and they do. Most of them do. Couple of these guys are balding. Um, that's all I gotta say. Couple of these guys are balding. We now get to the douchiest looking one, who of course is the president of the fraternity. He starts making a speech saying that the Sigma Phi's have always been in front of the rest, and it's been an honor to be your leader. The crowd cheers. He shows the crowd a letter and tells them it's from the national headquarters and he had to save it from Bo's shoe. Bo says he had a hole in his shoe and that letter looked pretty thick, so I used it to patch it up. And the president asks if he read the letter first, and another guy says, "Yeah, all right, he can't read." So of course everybody starts laughing. The letter pretty much says that even though they would like to keep them on as members, uh, they pretty much haven't paid their dues. In the past 6 months, they have received a total of $17.13, and the fraternity is currently $3,700 past due on their dues. None of the kids are taking this seriously at all. They're all joking about it and laughing. The letter says that if they don't pay up in 30 days, the fraternity will revoke their sponsorship as a national fraternity. The kids are upset because this will be their last party. The president, who we now learn his name is Kurt, does his best preacher impression, telling them that he needs their help to find the way and to dig deep into their pockets and give them $100 each to pay the dues. And of course, everybody starts throwing garbage at him because fuck this guy. We're not giving you shit. He walks off stage as music starts playing again, and there's this hot blonde in like a red jacket. This is Mel. This is Melanie. He tells her he's glad she finally decided to show up, and she tells him that she sees his frat is in trouble again. She kisses him, and he asks what that was for, and she said she missed him. He tells her they just saw each other this afternoon, and she says that's not what I meant. Then she says, "Let's take a walk." And my first reaction is, shit, we know what that means. Poor guy. They show some more images of the party. Basically, it's just them painting over. Um, they go. Um, as Kurt and Mel are leaving, Kurt tells one of the other frat brothers to grab two other frat brothers. One's name is Jack, and I swear to God that he said "listen" was one of the other guys' names. I rewound this thing 3 or 4 times, and he said "listen" every time, and even the captions said "listen" was this person's name. That can't be right. Uh, and to tell them there's a meeting in his room in 10. He looks at his girl. Let's say 20 minutes. And the guy just looks at these other two girls and goes, Shit only takes me 30 seconds. It's funny. Get it? It's funny. We get more shots of Bo taking, or Bo takes another chug off the beer funnel, and apparently that was his 18th one. One more, and he's going home with her, and he's pointing at what is supposed to be a fat chick, but in reality, she's really not fat. Like she's big up top, in the chest, but she's really not fat. Um, then we see the whole, like, the blurry image, and it comes back on, and it's a whole different woman, who's much smaller than the other woman. And Bo passes out. Uh, Excuse me. Red, I say red shirt, but Melanie sits down on the porch bench, and apparently they're already done walking. They walked enough to go outside. She claims that he's been ignoring her a lot lately, and he tells her that being president, he's responsible for these guys. As the guy behind him passes out drunk. She gets pissed and stands up, and she asks if he remembers when he had to leave her family's summer vacation. And Kurt tells her, "Well, yeah, my dad needed help on the farm." She says she can understand that, but it's always something. She admits that she's jealous of his friends, and he says, "Well, that's normal, as my friends are much cooler than your friends." This guy's a dick. He tells her he likes what he's doing there, and these guys mean a lot to him. She tells him she loves him, and even though he ignores her most of the time, uh, he tells her tomorrow they'll go. He'll take her somewhere where it's just him and her, no fraternity. And roll credit. Nope. Do we really think that's where it ended? Then make it up. Everything? No. Um, it got me because I really, 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 really thought she was breaking up with him, and she didn't. Um, Cut to Kurt's room, and uh, it's Kurt and the three guys. The three guys in the room are uh Hanks, Jack, and lo and behold, this dude's name is Listen. His name is Listen. But we cut the curtains, and he tells the group that they have to come up with a way to make that money. He looks at Hanks. He's the guy that made the 30-second joke, and he tells Kurt that he goes, "I don't know what you want me to do. I wrote him a letter." Well, what did the letter say? "To whom it may concern, we're having a few problems. Signed, Hanks, Treasurer." So listen again. It was at this point that I went to IMDb, and son of a bitch, if this guy's name isn't in the movie isn't Listen. Yes, this guy's name is Listen. Asks Hanks how the hell he got to be treasurer, and Hanks basically reminds him, "Well, you nominated me." And Listen goes, "Why the fuck would I do that?" Jack suggests a car wash, and Hank says, "Fuck that. Let's just steal." He doesn't even like washing his own car. "Let's just go steal a car and sell it." Kurt reminds him that last time they had a car wash, they made $120 total. Um, Listen suggests raking the neighbor's leaves, as it is that time of year. Hank says they aren't in college to work, they're in college to use their minds. He suggests robbing a liquor store because everybody does it. And at this point, I think Hanks is not a very good idea, man. Jack says the neighbors hate them anyway, so that's off the table. Hanks suggests asking Kirk's dad for money again. Kurt says they can't ask him for any more money because he's basically tapped. Then Hank suggests throwing another party, and this time charging people to get in. Kurt doesn't like the idea of charging people, but Listen and Jack convince him. Hanks is put in charge, and this kind of pisses Hanks off a little bit because he's like, "I used up all my brain power. Used up all of my brain power coming up with the idea, and now I got to do manual labor too." This dude is like really country as well. Um, the next morning, we see Kurt and Jack walking through the house when another guy comes up, which I believe was Bentley, and tells him that Melanie called about an hour ago. Kurt said he was supposed to call. Kurt basically just goes, "Fuck, I was supposed to call her back." He says he'll just pick her up and offers Jack a ride somewhere. Jack asks what Kurt and Melanie are up to, and Kurt says, I'll probably just take her to the lake. The way Kurt talks is he's treating this like a chore. Um, Also, Kurt didn't pack any kind of swimsuit or bag or anything like that to go to the lake with. So, what is he planning to swim in? Um, we cut to the lake, and there's Melanie and Kurt. They're both covered in sunblock or suntan lotion. Um, and she rolls over and she asks him to rub some oil on her back. He undoes her top and starts rubbing oil on her back. And then we see a pontoon boat racing towards them, and there's a bunch of people cheering on it. They both sit up quickly, and at 23 minutes 24 seconds, we get our first very quick boob shot as Melanie is topless. You get a quick glimpse of her boobs on about two separate occasions right there. She covers herself up with a towel and goes running off. And it turns out that the people on the pontoon boat are from the fraternity. Um, and there are two more topless women on board. Hanks tells Kurt that the fundraiser party is tonight, and Kurt tries to explain to Melanie that he did not know they would be there. The group takes off in the pontoon, and he tries again to explain that he really didn't know they were going to be there. He suggests going for a drive on the other side of the lake. She agrees as we get some more filler of them driving around. Kurt stops all of a sudden, backs up, and he's in front of the old Berber house. Um, and he wants to stop because he's seen pictures of this house before. Kurt wants to go exploring, but Mel is pissed because she was talking a second ago, and I guess he ignored her. The two go walking towards the house. Mel asks if he thinks anyone lives there, and they both say this place is pretty fucking scary. It's pretty creepy. We see a deformed face peeking out from behind a curtain. And I wrote down, hold on a damn minute. If that's Eddie's face, if that is Eddie, his face was not deformed in any way whatsoever. I mean, it was Jason Voorhees level deformed. So I don't know where they got that from. Kurt inspects the lock and chains a little too long for my liking, and he gets upset because it's locked. Kurt says it would make a great haunted house for a Sigma 5 fundraiser. And they go walking separate ways as Mel walks past this window, and Eddie is standing in the middle of the window, like he's 3/4 of the window as he walks by, and she walks a few more steps, and like, it wasn't even just his head; it was like half his fucking torso was in the window. But she takes 3 steps and she does those stop and like, wait a minute, and turns back around, and of course he's not in the window anymore. She opens the screen door, tries to open the actual door, and that doesn't budge. And then she ends up cutting her hand on the screen door. A hand slowly reaches in and grabs her shoulder, scaring her. And it's Kurt, and he tells her they should go have someone look at her hand. They leave, and Eddie opens the door and plays with the small amount of blood on the ground. We cut back to the fraternity and the Hellraiser fundraiser with the most 80s metal band ever, The Side, is playing. Hanks is out front telling people to come on in. Don't forget your money, and don't worry, there's plenty of beer and booze and women in here. And we stay on a shot of a large group of people they're just dancing to the music. Um, Basically trying to establish that it's a party. It's like, you know what? We know it's a party. Um, Hank starts hitting on the quote unquote fat chick that Bo was pointing at earlier in the movie. Um, we learn her name is Donna, and she asks if Hank would like to walk her home later, and he enthusiastically says yes. We get more music, more dancing outside. We get some close ups of some really good looking women, and there's some guys drinking alcohol. As the song winds down finally, we cut to Melanie talking to another girl outside, and she's asking Melanie what's been going on with her and Kurt. But Mel basically tells her, "Don't worry about it, we're fine." And this girl looks Melanie in the eyes and goes, "Look, we've been friends for 7 months or 7 weeks. Spill it. I know you better than anybody else. Do you? You've known her for 7 weeks." Mel complains about the fraternity again, and the new chick says that's the way it is with these guys. Melanie tells her that she loves him and just wants to spend some more time with Kurt. So 7 weeks old friend tells her to dump him and find someone else. That is the worst possible fucking advice to ever give someone. Um, Sally, who is the friend, tells her if he really gave a crap about her, he'd fight for her. Melanie says she can't dump him because they've been dating for a whole 6 months. Not a whole 6 months. Sally keeps pressuring her to dump him. It's like every other word's like, no, dump him. Come on, do it. Do it. Dump him. Sally asks Melanie, says if Melanie dumps Kurt, he'll follow her and to trust her because she knows guys. She doesn't. This chick does not know guys. Um, Cut back to the parties. The band starts up again. All of a sudden, the old band from earlier pulls up in front of the frat house. We cut to Kurt serving drinks in RC Cola cups, and he sees Mel crying, so he asks her what's wrong. And she says they need to talk because nothing has changed. Jack walks up and asks how Hanks is doing. Hanks says another 1,200 people and they're good to go. Well, now Jack tells him he needs $40 for another keg. Hanks says he just gave him money for a keg 20 minutes ago, but Jack says they need another one. He talks Hanks into giving him the money basically. Then we cut outside and we get a POV of the van as Hanks closes up shop for the night. Well, he didn't really close up shop, but he's taking his suit off. Let's put it that way. We get more shots from Eddie's point of view walking up to the house, and we briefly see his silhouette on the frat sign. Eddie knocks on the door, and Hank tells him it's $3 to get in, and Eddie tells him he's not there to party. Hanks asks him not to shut them down, and Eddie says he wants to help them. Hanks asks him to write it. He goes, "All right, you want to help us? Go ahead and write a check for $3,700." Eddie tells Hanks about this old abandoned house that would make a great haunted house. Hanks knows it's the Berber house. He hands Hanks the key and tells him that they have permission to use the house. He tells Hanks that he's a Sigma Phi just like him. Hanks wants him to give him the handshake and apparently gives him the correct shake. You never see Eddie's face. Um, what happened? There it goes. Eddie leaves and Hank still looks suspicious. We now cut to Kurt chasing down Melanie, who doesn't stop. Hank tells Kurt about the weird guy at the door and tells him what he said. Kurt said it's been closed forever. How are we gonna get in? Hank presents Kurt the keys to hell. Kurt asks who this guy was, and Hank says it was a fellow Sigma Pi. We cut to the Berber house as Kurt and company pull up the drive. Listen doesn't think they will work. Or Listen doesn't think the key will work, but the rest say Listen is full of shit. Listen asks Kurt why Mel broke up with him last night. Kurt says they haven't broken up and that Mel just wants some space, so he's giving it to her. Listen is very smart and asks him why do you think that a break, that doesn't count as a breakup? We cut to Jack and Hanks trying to open the door as the key isn't working. They finally get the door unlocked, and the fucking door just drops. It doesn't open, it just fucking drops. They talk about how creepy the house is and that it would be perfect for the haunted house. We now cut to Melanie walking up to the frat house where Sally is sitting. She tells her that she dumped him last night, and Mel doesn't think it's a great idea. Sally tells Mel the guys are at the Berber house because some guy walked up, gave them a key, and told them they could have a haunted house there to raise money. Mel says maybe if everything goes right, he'll have more time for me. Sally tells her he's not the only guy around, and Mel says, yeah, I'm finding that out. Now we cut to the outside of the Berber house, where the frat is about to start building their haunted house, and Hank yells, what more could a guy ask for? And from the back, we hear someone yell, permission. Hanks asks who invited him, and everyone turns around to look at the sheriff. The sheriff asks what the hell they think they're doing out there, and Hanks tells the officer that they have permission to be there, as they have a key. The sheriff asks who the hell would give them a key to this old place, and Hanks says it fits the lock. The sheriff tells them he's going to be keeping a very close eye on them. I don't think he will. While they are out there, we get some more late 80s, early 90s rock music as the building montage starts up. And there's really nothing special. It's just a montage of them building and pushing things in, and some of them kissing and things like that. There's nothing major. Cooking some food, drinking beer, all that good stuff. And then Mel flirting with Bentley. Um, we now cut to the campfire as the gang is hanging out around the fire and some straw bales, which is not very safe. There's a guy with a guitar. His name is Ferris. And he asks everybody what they want to hear, and everybody basically they do the free bird joke. And then for the first time ever, someone starts singing Freebird. He only knows the first verse, though. Melanie is sitting with Bentley and is really starting to piss Kurt off. One of the girls stands up and wants to tell ghost stories. She reminds everyone that her daddy is the sheriff, which, why the hell didn't she tell Dad to kick rocks earlier when he showed up for the party? Or when he showed up to the property? Like, that doesn't make sense. She goes into the story that 20 years ago, a little girl was murdered in the Berber house. She says the house used to be a fun place for families to go to. They found the girl in one of the rooms with her head cut off and a mask laying on the ground, on the floor beside her, blood everywhere. Hank says people get murdered all the time. She says the woman who owned the house left the town that night with the little boy. The girl says her daddy says the little boy did it. He talked to a lot of people that night, and that he was weird because he read monster magazines and stuff. And apparently, I'm weird because I read monster magazines and stuff. The groups make jokes about the girl cutting her own head off. Guitar guy getting a joke head. A head joke. He basically looks at his girlfriend and goes, "Well, speaking of head, um, he tells Joanne, his woman, that they should go swimming. She tells him she didn't bring a suit, and Barris just goes, well, honey, I don't want to go swimming with your swimsuit. And she pretty much goes, oh, okay. And they head off to the lake. Hanks tries the same thing with his woman, and she pretty much tells him to fuck off. We cut to Ferris and Joanne by the water. Joanne starts to strip, and guitar guy, or I put the guitar guy, but Ferris says this is his favorite part of the movie. And we see Eddie pull his mask down over his face so he isn't deformed. It's just a really good mask. She asks him if he really wants to go swimming because it's going to be very cold. And we now get topless Joanne as she walks very sexily towards the water. We cut to Ferris watching her, and Eddie pops up behind him, lifts him up against the tree, and hangs his ass there with a machete through the throat. Topless Joanne doesn't hear a fucking thing and starts calling to Ferris and telling him that she's cold. She tells him if he doesn't get out there in 3 seconds, she's going to freeze to death. And then we get a close up, very clear shot of Joanne's goods, and they are very nice. She plays in the water a little bit. The water's only coming up to her waist. Eddie comes up from behind her, twists her head all the way around, killing topless Joanne. The scene ends with Eddie carrying Joanne's body away. The next day, we cut to the group handing out flyers for their haunted house. Kurt is pumped because with the money from the haunt, they can pay up their dues. And they talk some more about how weird it was for that guy to just randomly show up and give the keys to the house. Um, then Hank says what's really weird is Ferris and Joanne never came back last night. Ugh. Sorry, guys. From skinny dipping last night. Kurt says those two pretty much fuck like rabbits, so he's sure they're fine. Um, he asks Hanks where Mel slept last night, and Hanks told him that she slept by Bentley, but don't worry, they didn't do anything. Hanks says he kept an eye on them all night. Hanks says he needs to see a couple of things. He sees a couple of things he must attend to, and tells Kurt he'll see him later. Melanie walks up and tells Kurt how good the house looks, and Kurt basically just cops the biggest attitude with her. She asks if he's mad at her, and he does the whole, "Why should I be?" Mel says she doesn't know because Kurt won't talk to her. Kurt says he thought he thought I thought I was giving you space, the space you wanted, and maybe you should go talk to Bentley. Mel basically just goes, "Well, maybe I will." Um, or maybe I will go talk to Bentley, and maybe we'll do more than talk. We cut to Eddie in his mask, he's setting up some more stuff in the haunted house. There's some chicken wire, red paint on the walls that say "kill room," and he takes his mask off, but we still don't see his face. We cut to Bentley watching television, and Kurt sits down beside him. Kurt asks how things are going with him and Mel, and Bentley says he doesn't want to get into it with him. Kurt tells him he's already smack dab in the middle of it. Kurt tells him that tells him to back off and leave Melanie alone. Bentley smugly just says, "Well, I wasn't going to do anything with her before, but now maybe I'll just bone her." Kurt grabs him by the shirt and just tells him he isn't worth it. And I disagree. Knock that punk bitch out. Lay his ass out. It's not. It's now showtime as we cut to the entrance from the beginning of the movie. And Hanks is sitting outside this time, taking people's money. We cut inside to Eddie, admiring his handiwork, and then outside to Hanks again. Black car pops up, and he tells Hanks, there's three of them. Hanks pulls back a blanket in the back seat, and there's two little girls underneath it. So there's five. He tells the guy $25 for all five, and really? Oh yeah, that is $25 for all five, and the guy in the car is basically saying, man, that's a lot of money. Remember when $25 was a lot of money? We now cut to the very long line to go inside the haunt. Um, Bo is doing the dad's job from earlier. Um, of talking on the microphone. The name of the haunt is, of course, Hauntedween. We cut inside where a group of four guys are behind a wall drinking from a keg, and one guy says it's three girls. And we go to a wall of hands that reach out and grab. Um, we cut to a doctor's scene where Sally is on a table screaming while the doctor is working on another patient. He grabs a flamethrower. Yes, you heard that right. A flamethrower, and asks if anyone needs a wart burned off. We see the group behind some chicken wire as the dentist. Um, we see a group behind some chicken wire as the doctor shoots the flames out at the group. He grabs a handsaw and starts cutting up Sally, quote unquote, cutting up Sally, and pulls some mannequin legs with panties on. The group claps and leaves, and Sally has to go to the bathroom all of a sudden. We cut outside where Sally is walking alone, and I don't think she's going to be. This is going to end well for Sally. Um, Apparently, there are no bathrooms in the house as Sally pops a squat halfway off into the distance. She starts to adjust herself as Eddie appears behind her, lifts her up, and just smacks her head on a tree limb. We cut to an S&M scene in the haunt where the scene is once again behind some chicken wire, uh, and Listen is torturing a few people in the gang. One of the girls is in her lingerie, which I have to say, no. Um, One of the girls is in her lingerie, which I have to say, I have never worked in a haunted house where the girls were working in lingerie. We cut outside where Listen is getting himself a beer when Eddie walks up and pumps the cake a couple of times for him. Listen thanks him and gets punched square in the face and knocked the fuck out for his troubles. We cut back inside where Mel and has an RC cola and sits beside Bentley. Uh, Bentley tells her they should ditch this place and head out back to his van. Mel agrees to go, and then after he leaves, she's asking herself, "What the fuck am I doing?" We cut back to the driveway, and Hanks is still there collecting money. Um, Inside, we hear a teenager ask how to get out of this place. And then the group keeps walking, where we see Eddie in a whole new mask. He's posing and showing off Listen and Sally. Um, Sally is now awake and is crying. He undoes Sally's gag and she starts screaming that this isn't the part of the haunted house and that this guy is a killer. The group starts to cheer him on now, um, saying how great of an actress she is. Eddie revs up a chainsaw and gets close to the group as they cheer him on. He walks over to Sally and the group tells him to kill her. He drags the chainsaw on her neck and she basically drops dead immediately. Um, the group cheers as Listen wakes up. Um, the group cheers as Listen wakes up. He looks around and sees Sally, Joanne, and Ferris Ferris's dead bodies. Um, he looks over in the rocking chair where the deteriorated body of Eddie's mama sits. Listen starts to scream as a new backdrop falls down with strikes and balls on it. Listen starts to panic as he tries to tell the group this isn't fake. Eddie walks in front and just shoves a baseball into his mouth. It is to note at this point, I noted that we really don't get to see a lot of the blows or the kills as it cuts away every time. Um, Eddie picks up a bat with very large spikes, changes his mind, and just picks up a regular aluminum bat. As Listen struggles, uh, a kid tells Eddie, "Batter up, dude." Eddie swings, and the kid yells, "Strike one!" Another girl yells, "Strike two!" And then she yells to take his head off. Eddie, um, or Eddie swings and knocks Listen's head clean off. We actually get to see the head go flying this time. Kurt and Jack decide to go through the haunt with another group ahead of them. The group comes out talking about how great the kill room scene was. We cut to Eddie coming out of the vent again, and then we now cut to Bentley waiting for in the van for Mel. Um, the van starts to shake violently, and Bentley gets out to check on what it is because he's white, and that's what white people do. It turns out to be the guy from earlier who looks like Pee Wee Herman, and Bentley is um, and Bentley tells him to beat it because he's waiting for Melanie. Pee Wee leaves and Eddie pops up behind Bentley, grabs him with the noose, and somehow being grabbed with the noose around your neck knocks you out. Because dude was knocked out. Back inside the haunt, Mel is in the S&M scene again, and Kurt looks at her. She gets up and leaves, and he goes after her to talk to her. And now Mel has the attitude. He tells Mel that he was trying to give her the space she needed, and she thanks him for that and says she figured some things out. He says he did too and that he loves her. She asks if he means that, and he says, yes, I really do. Mel says Sally was right and that he'd come chasing after her. Kurt says he thought he lost her, and Mel tells him, you never lost me. You had me the whole time. They kiss and make up, and Eddie just pops up behind him and gives him a double noggin knocker. For those who don't know what a double noggin knocker is, it is that move where you grab two people's heads and smack them together. It hurts. Jack and the final group walk out of the haunt, and we cut to Hanks reading a Playboy magazine. He looks around, and there's nobody coming, and decides, well, with this being my idea and all, why shouldn't I be able to go see the mama? Why did I put mama? Oh yeah, that's right, because that's what he says. He wants to go see the haunt. We cut inside to the cool room again, and the group cheers for Bentley to hang, but Eddie shakes his head no. Then he goes to Kurt and shakes his head no again. Um, Eddie takes the tape off of Eddie's mouth, off of Kurt's mouth, and he asks, "Who are you?" And Kurt asks him who he is. Eddie just stares at him in the mask. Um, and then we then go to Melanie, and the group is yelling for him, or then he then goes to Melanie and the group is yelling for him to slice her up. He does have a small scalpel and starts to slice her on the duct tape midsection. He then moves to her wrist and slices long ways down. Kurt is calling him a son of a bitch as the crowd cheers him on. He then turns on the electric chair, pretty much electrocuting Kurt. We cut to the group with Hanks in it. Um, and they want to see what all the commotion is. We cut back to the kill room, and the crowd wants Eddie to let Bentley hang. Bentley yells at the group that this is all real. Bentley basically he kicks the board. Bentley hangs there as Eddie again hits the button to electrocute Kurt. Hank reaches the end and sees everything in the room, and all of his dead friends. Hank screams and everyone looks at him, and he tells them this is the part of the house that's real, and everyone screams, and he's really getting them. Or everyone screams that he's really killing them and goes running like it's chaos. Hank gets the torch and starts cutting through the chicken wire with it. He cuts down Bentley, who surprisingly isn't dead. Eddie sneaks away through the ventilation system and runs outside to get into his van. Kurt goes to check on Melanie, who isn't moving. Excuse me. Hank walks over to the vent as Eddie pokes his head back up, and Hank shoots the flamethrower down the vent at him. Hanks tosses the thrower down and stumbles outside and falls down. Jack checks on him, and he tells Jack that he cooked him like one of his mama's homemade biscuits. The vent kicks open, and Eddie comes out in a new mask, but this one does have smoke coming out of it. We cut to Kurt and Melanie on the porch. He's holding Melanie. Kurt tells her she's going to be all right, and she tells him that she loves him. Sheriff shows up finally, and he goes running. And we cut to the shed where the van breaks through the barn and goes off speeding. He stops beside the cop car for some reason, and Kurt decides to go after him, leaving Mel alone by herself again. Kurt reaches in. Basically, Eddie had stopped to lean out and pop and slash one of the cop's tires. Kurt reaches in and grabs the gun from the police car and goes running off after the van. Eddie finally removes his mask, and half of his face is burnt. Kurt pops out, and Eddie almost runs him over. Kurt takes 2 shots with a double barrel shotgun and blows the fucking van up. It blows up, guys. The van is on fire, and all of a sudden starts up and speeds off into the night in flames. Roll credits. What the fuck? Did Melanie live? Did Bentley live? Did anybody else live? They leave so many questions. Oh. But do a little trivia. Filmed in and around Bowling Green, Kentucky, many of the actors were students at Western Kentucky University at the time. Featured in Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst series. The name of the college in this film is Top Hill State College, which this was filmed around Western Kentucky University. Western Kentucky's nickname is the Hilltoppers. And this is the film debut of Blake Pickett. Who didn't, like I said, she didn't go on to do much. Trying to see. There's no financial information, of course. Doesn't shock me. Featured in Pop Culture Beast's Halloween Horror Picks, Hauntedween 2015. I think that's gonna do it, really. So let's get to my review. My review. I enjoyed watching it. It definitely had a very 80s vibe for being a 90s movie. And I had a lot of fun watching it. I think it still holds up. The ending kind of just was so abrupt that it kind of takes from the movie. The bad acting takes from it. I wish I would have got to see more of the kills, but it is what it is. I still had a decent time watching it, so I can give this. Let's give it 3.5 stars. Um, I suggest watching it. Give it a chance. Like I said, I enjoyed it. Surprisingly, I've never heard of it before. I watched it for the first time tonight, and I kind of enjoyed it. Um, so yeah, give it a shot. You can find it on Tubi TV. I don't know where else you can find it, but I watched it on Tubi. Um, so that's gonna do it this week. Um, thanks for joining me late at night, early into the morning hours. It is 2:15 Eastern time right now. So where can you find me? You can find me on all social media at the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast, on X, on Facebook groups, on YouTube. Um, if you're interested in listening to any more of my episodes, the audio versions are available for download anywhere Spreaker posts their podcasts. You're talking Spotify, you're talking Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, anywhere Spreaker um, posts their podcast. You can get the audio only version, no video, which really there isn't video until I can get myself a webcam. You can also find me at Sewer Dweller 78 on Twitch. If you have any questions for this show, or any suggestions for the show, any movie suggestions, you can email me at bloodybinge@gmail.com. You can also find me every Friday and Saturday night for the month of September and October at Hell's Dungeon in Dayton, Ohio, Easttown Shopping Center, 3866 Linden Avenue. I'll be there most nights. Um, and of course, you can always find me here on the Owlite Network. Um, Wrestling is supposed to be coming back, so we'll be doing more wrestling podcasts, hopefully. Plus, a little something new down the line after Haunt season. I might be tackling, and I believe Raz and Matt will be helping me with. So we'll see what happens there. Um, but other than that, guys, I hope everybody enjoyed this show. I hope everybody enjoyed Hauntedween. Be good to each other. And of course, watch more horror movies. See you next week.